This is the repo called Ponytail. It has 54,000 stars on GitHub, currently works with 14 agents, and the whole point of it is to reduce code changes, have it be less expensive than current LLM models today, be 27% faster, and 100% safe. So in this video, we're putting that directly to the test. We're going to be measuring both net new code changes as well as existing code base changes to see how much Ponytail can really save us on token costs, as well as write less code while still giving the same output. So that being said, let's take a look at our two experiments and let's see the results for ourselves. So for the first experiment that we are running a net new website. Here is the website on the left side made without Ponytail. This is just strict standard Claude. And then on the right side, we have a comparison to Ponytail. And so we gave both Ponytail and Claude the same prompt all 3 times, and we measured this 3 times just to find the median of how many tokens it ran, the cost, as well as the time. So the first thing you'll notice is that the websites actually look different from each other. We give it a general prompt to make a marketing website, and as you can see, the styling is different. For example, you see a rounded buttons here, you see more squarish buttons here. There is a kind of gradient up here, whereas there's no gradient on the Ponytail version. And then if we scroll down, everything you need to stay ahead, we have 6 examples or 6 cards, whereas the Ponytail version has 4 cards. You'll notice even more differences if you scroll down. First off, the prices look different. So you got 0, 15, and 39, whereas vanilla Claude has 0, 24, and 79 per month. And then you also see the card, the toggle of the monthly and annual, looking a little bit different than the one on Ponytail. Once again, we scroll down to FAQ. FAQ actually looks a little bit the same, but I did notice this here, which is a little bit of a spacing issue on Ponytail. It goes right up against these cards. There should be at least a little bit of breathing room here, but once again, the cards do work as intended. And the vanilla Claude has a little bit more polish where you have a hover over effect, turning the header into purple, as well as when you click the card, you see that this plus button goes into an X animation, which is quite nice. Ponytail version is not animated, but it's a simple change of assets. And lastly, we have a get ready to get started where we could enter our email. So if I do test.gmail.com, this should theoretically work. Same over here, test.gmail.com. And these both work. So for our first test, on the left-hand side, you can see that there were a lot more lines written than on the right-hand side. So Ponytail, this took 337 lines to write. On the left-hand side with vanilla Claude, this took almost triple the amount of lines at almost 1,000 lines to complete this landing page. On top of that, it costs a lot more. So it costs almost $2 to make this landing page. Whereas on this Ponytail version, it costs 64 cents. Claude Vanilla is nearly triple the cost of Ponytail Full. And then lastly, when we go to how much time it took to build these sites, on the right-hand side, Ponytail took 99 seconds to complete, whereas Claude was definitely a bit more meticulous with it and took 272 seconds, almost triple the time that it took Ponytail to complete. So we ran this 3 different times. If I scroll down, you can actually see different versions of the site. And here were the results of those 3 trials. So on median, Ponytail writes 65% less code. It also in general was about 25% cheaper. It went from 85 cents to about 65 cents. It was also 33% faster, from 150 seconds to 99 seconds. And lastly, I don't know if I trust this that much, but it was 100% safe on a build level. So I guess the one conclusion that I made from these 3 different examples was that even though Ponytail wrote less code on paper, I would say the Claude Vanilla looks a lot more polished. You have this nice little gradient in the background. We don't have this spacing problem here. You have that really nice animation with the close and open button. On the other variants, you have this gradient going across the words now instead of the background. You can see that there's a hover over it effect with the cards being hovered over, and you don't get that same polish you get with Ponytail. So in general, although Ponytail did accomplish the prompt that we wanted to accomplish, if you're building something like landing pages or you're building something that is very UI heavy, Ponytail might not be the most optimal option. But on the other hand, if you're building something just internally or you're shipping a change that doesn't really have much UI effect, obviously with this first experiment of net new code, it did make a dramatic difference in terms of how much less code it wrote, being almost 25% cheaper, and the build time being significantly faster. So now that we had our first experiment with net new code, let's ask for a change for an existing code base, because this is where I think Ponytail might start to shine in existing large code bases instead of net new ones. For our second experiment, I took my Rideo website, which you can see here, which you can play around at Rideo.ai. I was going through my logs and found actually a bug regarding this. So recently I changed my model from a freemium model to a hard pay gate, but with a 7-day free trial. And so when they sign up for their free trial, they should have unlocks to every single premium feature that was gated before. So for example, before I had a monthly post limit. And so this is a bug. They shouldn't be able to see this even if they have a free trial. And so once again, I tested both with vanilla Claude as well as Ponytail. And after a lot of thinking and a lot of time spent 2,000 seconds, 1,400 seconds, I was able to get a diff, and here was the results. There actually wasn't that many changes in terms of lines added. So there was 211 lines added for the vanilla Claude, and then with Ponytail installed, we only needed 180 lines instead of the 211 to accomplish our goal. We did remove a significant amount of lines in each of these PRs, with 1,300 lines of code getting removed with vanilla Claude and 1,261 lines getting removed with Ponytail. So overall, with this use case, there wasn't that much of a difference for our line difference. We only had about a 15% smaller diff with the Ponytail. Let's also talk about price. So price was cheaper. It was about 15% cheaper than vanilla Claude. Going back to the Ponytail README, it says it could claim about 20% cheaper costs. And honestly, I believe it. So it's about 16% cheaper. It's not at the 20% quite yet, but I would comfortably say that it can probably regularly hit that 15% cheaper mark for pretty much all use cases. So that was a little bit cheaper. And then it was a bit faster, about 35% faster. Vanilla Claude took about 2,100 seconds to complete, whereas the Ponytail took about 1,400 seconds to complete. Overall, I think it was speedy, but honestly, I think the biggest thing here for Ponytail is the cost. We don't really care too much about the actual speediness of our PRs. For most cases, we will let Claude run in the background and then come back to it when we're at our computer or we get a notification. So honestly, I feel like how much time it takes to complete a PR isn't really that important to me. It might be different for you if you're trying to push out as much code as possible and are sitting at your computer 24/7. But I think for most normal people that are spending a couple hours at their computer working on side projects, the time elapsed doesn't really matter that much. So going from our production, which shows this erroneous monthly post limit reached, to our vanilla Claude, that warning no longer shows, which means it has passed our test. And the same here with Ponytail. There's also other gates that were there before. For example, in drafts, you can see that we had gates before here. And so in both of our PRs, they don't show. So both of them were code complete. They accomplished the task at hand. The main difference was the cost as well as the smaller diff. So the last thing I wanted to discuss is how this is working in the background. So all this is pretty much a Ponytail / skill.md. And it is essentially saying, like, you're a lazy developer. Lazy means efficient, not careless. And then do not over-engineer a solution. It also shows this thought process to have. So number one, does this need to exist at all? Number two, does it already exist in the code base? Number three, does standard library do it? Number four, do the native platform you're using already cover it? Number five, does the already installed dependency solve it? Number six, can it be in one line? And then seven, only then the minimum code that works to implement it. All Ponytail is essentially prompt engineering at its finest. There are several intensity levels that we didn't really test, but if you want me to test the light, full, and ultra versions, where the more intense Ponytail is, the more quote unquote lazy it gets, where it tries to ship things in the least amount of code possible. We were testing the standard full level on all our examples in this video. And yeah, so that's basically it. It's obviously there's a lot more skills here. There's an MCP here, but I would encourage you to look at the repo yourself in your free time if you're interested. So with that being said, let me know what you thought about this video. Let me know if you're going to start using Ponytail to save at least 15% on your token usage. I hope you learned a thing or two from this video, and I will see you in the next one.